Hey guys, Joe Madden here, the Joe Madden Sports Podcast, joined by a great guest this afternoon, Michael Jenkins here, the host of the Daily Tips by BetMGM. Michael, how's the day treating you?
Here that I wake up at 3 a.m. every morning, so I got my little nap in. I'm essentially a grown toddler is what I do. I have to have a nap so that I'm okay in the afternoon, but everything's going really well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really glad to see that you wake up nice and happy from a nap. If I had a nap during the day, I definitely wouldn't be on a show because not my strongest suit after that.
It's not mine either, but then again, I almost have to have it. It's almost impossible to get into a schedule where I've tried everything, but when you're going to bed like I do, because I'm old, I have to get in bed at a decent hour. So
Yep.
it's 7 o'clock outside and it's bright outside, but I have to do it. So my sleep is completely off, and I guess I just fall into a nap even when I don't want to. So I guess that's just part of getting older. But the show's been great, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Now, you've been with BetMGM doing the Daily Tips show and bets. How are you enjoying that? How did you get started with them?
I was very lucky in that I'm a traditional sportscaster. I've done TV sportscasting for 20 plus years, and I started on a betting show with NBC about 3 years ago. And that got canceled because of COVID, and a ton of us got laid off. It wasn't a great time, but I was very fortunate in that I just started grinding and doing a bunch of freelance work. And then one of my old bosses works for Odyssey, which owns radio stations throughout the country. And he called me one day and said, "Hey, we have a national sports betting show and we're partnering with BetMGM and I want you to host it." And I couldn't believe it. I was super excited. That absolutely came out of nowhere. But I went through and tested with a few different co-hosts, and then I absolutely got along with Chelsea when we had a quick little pilot together, and we just kind of took off from there, and we're coming up on a year. So it's been a really awesome time. I mentioned my schedule, which is kind of the only tough part about it, but Chelsea and I don't really run from that. We kind of embrace the fact that, yeah, this sucks. Nobody likes being up this early, but it's part of it, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, she is absolutely a fantastic co-host for you to have there. I love some of your segments. Some of the looks that she gives you in those segments too is priceless.
Chelsea is not afraid to give me a hard time, and she says she loves to bully me, but I can always tell how Chelsea's going to react because we're on terrestrial radio throughout the United States and all sorts of cities throughout the country. We also stream on Twitch, but we can see each other on these online programs. And so I'll say something and I'm watching Chelsea as I'm saying it. And I just see like the whites of her eyes because they're rolling back in her head so far. And I thought, this isn't going to end well for me, but we have a really good time together on the show for sure.
There was one show that sticks out in my mind, and I don't know what you guys were talking about, but you said something like, just give the kid a beer. And the reaction on her face, I could read it. I could see exactly what was coming out of her too.
Well, I have a few running bits on the show, which is let's let kids smoke and drink. Why can't we bring cigarettes back? Which is an obvious joke, but I think it's funny because it's so stupid and so ridiculous. And of course, Chelsea having a lovely 2-year-old daughter, she gives me a hard time about that. But also sometimes she'll play along and be like, fine, I'm just going to give in here. Fine, let's let children smoke if you want to be a complete degenerate, you moron.
I love it. Now, where did the passion for sports betting and the sports industry come from?
It's funny. I love sports betting, but this is going to sound really nerdy, but more than anything, I love journalism. I really love journalism. And I've always, I went to school for it, and I used to write and create all sorts of stories and do actually in graduate school, I did a lot of theory work, which has nothing to do with practical journalism. It's all the underpinnings of it. So I love the craft, and I've always enjoyed sports betting, even way before it was legal, before, we were doing it, before you could do it. And so for me, even though our show isn't traditional journalism and it's hard to find that out there, particularly under this umbrella, there are tenets of it. And there are certainly parts of it that you can incorporate, be it, making sure that you're achieving a good balance between being serious, providing information, but also being entertaining or affecting someone, or making sure the flow of the show is in a way that keeps viewers engaged and going to breaks in the right way. So you have that, and then you couple that with sports betting is a lot of fun. I don't think anyone who is in this space is really trying to make some sort of profit because, as you know, you want to win. There's no question about it, but nobody's going to retire tomorrow because they hit some 10-game parlay. And so when you incorporate two things that I really love, it's really been a perfect mesh of that. And I've been really lucky.
Well, you're absolutely killing it in your space over there.
Thank you.
How did you become a Longhorns fan?
Well, I grew up in West Texas, and so I've been in DC since 2004, so coming up on 20 years now. But I grew up in the sticks, and I'm talking like West Texas. I talk like this. When I was in Austin, I had fellow Texans make fun of me. They were like, "Hey, where are you from?" I was like, "I'm from Breckenridge, Texas. Where are you from?" So I had to work on my accent, but I grew up in the Lone Star State, and of course, Texas is the school there, and it had a great journalism program. So that's how I ended up there, and loved my time in Austin. It was a real switch from what I was accustomed to, because there was a huge jump from a small town in the middle of nowhere where we literally had 3 stoplights. And then I'm moving to Austin, and my first class was bigger than my whole high school. I didn't even know what to think about it, but I'm glad I did it. And after about a year, I was just dyed in the wool orange blood. And I've been a huge, passionate fan of the Longhorns ever since.
I love it. So we give you a couple beers. Is that accent coming back out?
Oh my God, yes. Particularly if I talk to, you know how it is when you talk to people from back home and it
Yep.
always slips out. Like if my mom calls, I'll be like, "Oh, I'm doing good, Mom. How are you?" And people will look at me like, "Who the hell are you?" You're a completely different person. But when it's sort of in your, your soul, when you just grew up with
Yep.
it, you hear people and you sort of emulate that. So yeah, a couple beers or talking to the family always comes back.
Yeah, I know that situation. I actually was born in Australia, moved to Canada at 15. So I've practiced
Oh,
the Canadian accent forever, but a couple drinks and talking to someone Australian, it's straight back out.
oh, do you get back there a lot?
Oh, haven't been lately because of all the travel restrictions and
Oh,
everything like
yeah.
that. But yeah, I seem to send my brother up here more because he's living back down there now. So definitely a beautiful country.
I got to check
Hard to
that out.
watch sports from there, though. So I don't know if I could ever move back.
Yeah, because you're probably watching at crazy hours, right?
Yeah, it would be insane hours to be able to live in Australia. You'd miss the whole daytime down there.
Okay, yeah, that would be a hard sell. Maybe I'll just the visit instead of the permanent move down there.
Absolutely. Okay, so with everything that you're doing in the industry, what's your favorite part of it?
Ooh, what is my favorite part? Honestly, it's just to me, it's the challenge. I don't mean to sound like a nerd here, but I love the challenge of putting something together. And to me, it's almost like a work of art. And not that our show is artful, but what I mean is you start with a blank canvas, right?
Yep.
And then you have all of these elements, whether it's audio or whether it's going to be opinions or whether it's going to be timing or the picks that you make or the research that you do and how it's presented. And there's so many elements that come together to make this show. And then just like if you're crafting something, you use all sorts of different tools and colors and different things you
Yep.
can put together to end up with the finished product. And for me, that's what I love waking up every day to. I like to wake up and see that my bets came home for sure. And then I see, oh, okay, so the betting is going well. Our show went well. What can I do today? I've got a blank slate again. I know we're going to cover A, B, C, and D, but how can I best put this together with Chelsea and all of our producers in a way that by the end of the day, I think that was a good show. I still have a passion for that. And which is why I got into this business. I really love it. And the fact that I get to cover sports betting now is just an added bonus because, like I said, I've been doing it for 20 years. So now I get to talk about it.
That's fantastic. You can see your passion on your show, so you're definitely killing it over there. Let's talk some NBA. We have the East and the West finals. Any look aheads for these?
Yeah, I'm looking at the odds right now at BetMGM, and we were talking about this on the show, and I'm really curious about the Mavericks, and maybe this is an overreaction because of what we saw in Game 7 against the Suns, but I do think if you're looking at futures that it might be worth, if you're looking at maybe a player prop or a player future, maybe looking at Luka as a finals MVP if you think the Mavericks can beat the Warriors. Now, I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. You can make a case for either side here because as I was talking about on the show, we look at this Golden State team, and this is a very good Golden State team. They could absolutely win it all. There's no question about that. But let's not mistake this Golden State squad for the same one that was winning chips a few years ago, because that's when
Absolutely.
Steph and Clay and they had KD and Andre Iguodala, who was the finals MVP. This is a different club. They still have members of that championship club. And the Warriors love to say, we have championship DNA. Yes, they do. But they're not the same dominant team. So I love the Warriors. I think they'll probably beat the Mavs, but you can make a case for Dallas, particularly now if they get Luka some help. So if you like Dallas and you think, look, they can slow the game down, they can play a half-court offense, which is what they want to do. They want to go back and forth against or with the Warriors. They want to slow things down. If they can do that, if they can continue to get Luka help, there is a chance they can win this thing. And if you think that's going to happen and they match up well in the finals, then Luka at plus 650 to win finals MVP, I think is an interesting bet. But it just depends on what side you're backing. You find a side you want to back and you say, is there value here or not?
Did you expect the Mavs to beat the Suns out?
No, not at all. I really
Neither did
didn't.
I.
I was stunned. And it's not to take anything away from Dallas because I was really impressed. And one thing I love about Luka is he does not shy away from the moment. He
Mhm.
absolutely loves the moment, hit those first 3 shots in game 7, and was on a roll after that. He plays with so much confidence. I thought this would be one of those series where the home team wins every single game. And I thought the Suns, having been to the NBA Finals last year with a veteran like CP3 at the helm, they would find a way to win. And frankly, I think they just completely wilted under the pressure. And I hate saying that because I want Chris Paul to win a championship, and I was wrong about this series. But you can say, well, the Mavericks earned it, and they did. But it's not like this was a hard-fought game where the Mavericks had to grind it out. It was a hard-fought series, but in the end, it was the Mavericks who responded to the pressure and the Suns who felt all the weight of what they were supposed to do this season after the disappointment of last year. So I was stunned.
Yeah, it was shocking for sure, especially how they held them down defensively. I didn't expect that at all in that game.
No.
Now, in the East Finals, we have the Heat and the Celtics. Any look ahead for this one?
I would probably take the Celtics in the series, but one thing we've talked about, and I don't know why this is, I can't put my finger on it, but I don't give the Heat enough credit. And I'll say it right now. They've been the number 1 seed all season long, or especially near the end of the year. And they earned the position that they're in. They're very deep from top to bottom. It's not just Jimmy Butler. It's a lot of guys. We even saw Bam Adebayo step up when Joel
Oh,
Embiid was out in that
fantastically, yeah.
previous series. Yeah. Tyler Hero is a stud. There's so many guys. Even Victor Oladipo has come off the bench and been effective. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. They're a very good defensive squad. And yet I keep sliding towards the Celtics. And I think the reason why is you can get caught up in star power. And when you think of the Celtics, you think it's a reason why so many people rode Brooklyn, even to the very bitter end. But in the end, they weren't a very good team roster wise from top to bottom. They had a couple superstars and that's it. And you can get drawn into Boston and say, oh, they have Jaylen Brown, they have Jason Tatum, and those guys are studs and they are deeper than the Nets clearly. But I think it's because they have a little more cachet than do the Heat. And maybe I'm being sucked in again, but in the second half of the season, no team played better defense than Boston did. That has been their calling card. That has been the difference in the first half of their season versus the second half of their season. So I'm going to lean Boston, but maybe I've got a blind spot here because I have not been giving my proper credit all season long.
Well, we've definitely seen solid defense out of both of these teams. We have such a low total in this first game at 204. Do you think it still stays under? Because I'm taking the under in this one.
Are you? I cannot decide. God, that's such a low total, 204.5. I remember when we were seeing 208s on the board. I thought, it's too low. It's too low. But these unders keep hitting. I will also say that Miami is spectacular on defense as well. And that's what's going to make this series so interesting. We saw the Heat do that. They shut down James Harden. They shut down Trae Young before that. So who's to say they can't do the same to one of Boston's stars? I mentioned the Celtics defense. I hate to say it, but you're probably right. It's probably the right side.
Oh, it's going to be a crazy game. I can't wait. Let's talk some NHL. I don't want to keep you all day, but what are you thinking of the NHL playoffs? I'm a diehard Calgary fan. We got the win. Battle of Alberta coming up. Do you think the Calgary Flames can beat the Edmonton Oilers?
That is my pick. I put some money on Calgary. I'm not just saying that. It's documented on my show, so I'm not just saying this for your pod. I didn't even know you're from Calgary, which is funny, but they are so talented offensively, whether it's Gaudreau, and to see him get that shot from that angle last night against Ottinger, who was just out of his mind. It was just like having a wall in front of that net. It took a shot like that to advance the Flames, but they're so talented offensively. Toffoli finally got on the board. And then in net, you've got a guy in Markstrom who's been fantastic. Calgary, I believe, is one of those teams that we haven't paid quite enough attention to during the regular season because going into the playoffs, you could make a case for so many different teams. And you really still can at this point, even though I know the Avs are the favorites. But I love the value at 9-1. I was sweating it last night because I needed them to advance, and I'm glad they did. And also, I think coming up, they're going to have a better time in this next series in the Battle of Alberta because no one can really match that Stars defense. And I think those guys in the top 2 lines for Calgary are really going to thrive.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic run for the cup here. I can't wait to see how things go. My fear is Ottinger could move next year. And if he goes to the Edmonton Oilers, that would be terrible for the Calgary Flames.
Joe, you can't do it. You got to focus on right now. Just don't worry about it. Just get through this. And if he comes, listen, if you win the cup and he comes to Alberta next year, he's playing for Edmonton, you won't even sweat it.
Yeah, I really think we need to win this cup. I don't want Johnny Gaudreau to go after this season or anything. So I'm looking ahead. This year is so important for us to get it. Who do you think? Well, you've got a future on the Calgary Flames. Who do you think else will be in that final Final round.
Oh God. Well, I mean, obviously in the Western Conference, you can't talk about the West without talking about
Yep.
the Avs, and everybody knows how good they are top to bottom. So I won't continue to say, "Oh, the Avs are so good." Let's talk. Yes, we all know they're the best team in hockey. I get it. I think in the East is very fascinating to me. We were talking to one of our guests this morning on the show who works at BetMGM, Jason Scott, and he said that he's seen a lot of sharp money coming on the Panthers, and
Okay.
which I don't really understand because I'm a Caps fan. That's my team, and I really think the Capitals should have won that series. They had a shot go off the off the net in overtime that they could have pushed them through for one game. They were up 3-0 and blew that game in Florida. So they had a lot of chances to win this series and just didn't do it. So I'm not really sold on the Panthers based on what I've seen. And I know Bobrovsky is really good, but I think the Rangers are a club that could sneak up on some people. And maybe
Okay.
sneak up is not the wrong word, but I love the resilience they showed in coming back from 3 games to 1 down against the Pens. And it was crucial for a guy like Igor Shesterkin to regain that playoff form that we saw during the regular season. He's going to win the Vezina. He was absolutely the best, but he's got his confidence back. And to beat a veteran-laden club like the Pens, I think is going to do wonders for the Rangers. So I think that's kind of the sneaky team that I like in the East. But in the West, I'm hoping it's the Flames, even though I know the Avs are the team.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Rangers come through. I think whoever wins the Rangers and the Hurricanes matchup is who gets there. They're going to be absolutely fantastic, and they could hoist it. It's going to be hard, but I really do hope it's the Calgary Flames.
I do too. I'm with you. And right now I'm looking at the outright winner. Those odds have gone down to Flames plus 550. So I'm glad I got it at 9-1. They're the third favorite to win it. So we're not necessarily too far away from what Vegas is seeing either.
Yeah, it's so true. It's going to be a fantastic race for this cup here. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. Can you remind everyone where to find you, where to watch your shows and listen to all of your shows that you have going on?
Sure. I know you're in Canada, but we are 6 to 9 across the country, nationwide in the States. It's the Daily Tip with me and Chelsea Messenger. And then you can also find us on Twitch. We stream live every morning. It's twitch.tv/BetQL.
Okay, Michael, thank you so much for joining me here. All the best in all of your bets today. I hope they go fantastically.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll have to do it again. Bye, guys. We'll see you back